Good afternoon, everyone. So, my name is Angad Tewari and I work as an associate software engineer at Red Hat. So, I write Python code for a living, and the rest of the time, what I do is I think about what my Python code is actually costing to the company while it is running in the background. So, the topic that we are going to discuss today is going to be about sustainable coding and how our even the smallest commits are going to matter when it comes at scale. So consider an example that when we go out and we toss a plastic bottle out there, the waste is pretty obvious. We see it and we kind of feel guilty about that, and someone is definitely going to tag you in a tweet mocking about that. But consider you writing a Python snippet that pings the server continuously for no reason at all at 500 milliseconds or something like that. So the waste that is happening over there is not very obvious. We don't see it, so that is why we can't actually pinpoint that, and there is no smoke, no smell, and no angry looks that are being pointed at you. So everything boils down to how we can write a code that is actually sustainable and efficient enough that it is not actually going to cause any overhead to the servers that are actually running it. So the topics that we are going to discuss quickly today would be, firstly we'll have a discussion at what sustainable coding is, and then we'll have a look at why it is more than just another environmental discussion. Then we'll move towards knowing small contributions that we make to the code, and that can have a bigger impact when it comes at scale while the code is running actually on a production. Then we'll quickly zoom into knowing how we can measure these invisible exhausts for our code, and then we'll have a look at a super cool tool that is CodeCarbon that actually helps us to pinpoint those emissions and invisible exhausts that our code is silently generating. And then I'll move towards pointing out some non-negotiable practical use cases that I would like everyone to inculcate in their daily workflow that can actually help us to write a better and a sustainable code. And in the end, we'll open for Q&A. So starting with what sustainable coding is. So when we first learn how to code, we are all taught the same thing. That's let's make our code just work. So that is, I mean, the absolutely correct approach, because shipping a broken code is absolutely the worst sustainable thing that you can actually do to a customer. So sustainable coding is all about writing a piece of code that is working perfectly today, and is also not creating any extra expense for the company or for you in the coming days. So with knowing that, we can base all this on top of four practical foundations that are the pillars. Firstly, we have maintainability. Maintainability simply means that all the hot fixes that we do today on our code are somewhat going to cause more expensive code for you tomorrow. Then we have efficiency. Efficiency simply means that two pieces of code that perform the same function are not going to be same at all. So one of them is silently going to consume more amount of resources or the computational power without us even realizing that. And then the next thing that we have is clarity. So clarity is kind of an underrated pillar, but equally important. What clarity does to our code is, we should always aim at writing a clearer code, because once we write a clearer code, it is bound to stay in the production for a longer period of time. And we know that messy code is going to be rewritten at all costs, because no one wants their production code to look like a plate of spaghetti. So yeah, rewriting any sort of code is just going to be expensive for the developer who is creating that, and also is going to cost us more computational power when running at a scale. And the next and the final pillar is going to be reliability. So reliability means that a code that has been thoroughly tested and has solid and foolproof error handlings is going to prevent us from having continuous rollbacks or emergency patches and all other stuff like that, so that these emergency patches and the rollbacks are kind of exhausting for the developer, and as well as they are using extra amount of space and the memory and the CPU utilization, which of course we can prevent if we try to pinpoint those locations of the code that are making it unsustainable. So all in all, we can say that sustainable coding is all about having a simple shift in the mindset from taking our minds from does this code really work towards does this code really need to efficiently work for a longer period of time. Now, talking about what sustainable coding is, this is a fair question that we have in our mind. Why do we need this and why does this even matter? Because when I write a specific block of code, it passes all the test cases, it is kind of running through all the pipelines, and it is giving me all the desired outputs that I want from a specific piece of code to provide me. But here is the harsh reality that a code does not work on vacuum. So every time we execute a simple piece of code, it is going to create a chain of action somewhere around the world where something physical is going to happen, be it in the form of servers that are continuously trying to run your code and continuously trying to run your code throughout, and this is creating a lot of extra heat, and then the servers are going to need extra amount of water just to cool themselves down, and this kind of chain prolongs throughout. So what happens is every execution is kind of also consuming extra amount of energy from our part as well. If we develop a code and we run it on our laptop, the difference is only about a millisecond or so, so it is kind of not very harmful for us when we look at this lower scale. But imagine the same amount of inefficiency that is multiplied by the amount of times it is going to be run at production, and also the scale at which it is going to perform throughout all the regions of the globe. So that makes even a tiniest of the inefficiencies really harmful for the whole server as well. Moving on, we have certain small code choices that can lead to a bigger impact when it comes at scale. So here is the uncomfortable truth for you, that two pieces of code are not going to, that are going to generate the same output are definitely not going to be the same. Because even the smallest of our choices when it comes to maybe choosing a certain library or choosing even a smallest of the data structure can lead to inefficiencies when it comes to boiling it all down to a bigger picture. So on a laptop, we never notice that because these milliseconds don't actually mean anything to us. But the code in the production is going to run over and over again for each API call, for each time the user is going to log in into a page, or continuously throughout 24/7 on servers that are far away somewhere that we are quite oblivious about. But they too are going to impact us in a way that they will consume more electricity, more energy, and all the natural resources that we have over here. So here is a quick comparison between the two pieces of code. I will try to tell you the difference. What it kind of makes is, we have two pieces of code that are going to generate the same result. This is basically, we are trying to amend some elements into a Python list. So the code on the right is basically a code that works fine, and the code on the left is something that is actually fine and sustainable. So the key difference is, when we look carefully, is the code on the right is going to perform the memory allocation over and over again for each call of the for loop, while the this piece of code on the left is just going to allocate the memory at once. This is just a simple example, and now consider this snippet that has been placed into a bigger picture, and this is running on every API call by a user. So what it does is, these tiny inefficiencies take up the more CPU cycles to execute themselves, and in turn they lead to a longer chain of reactions that is going to use more and more and more resources throughout. Now, there is one principle in engineering, that we can't fix something that is not visible to us. So how do I find out what these things are in our code that is actually making our code slower by the day, and we are kind of oblivious about that? So Just like considering that we have latency and error logs, so we can see them and we can pinpoint via debugging that a certain piece of code is causing those errors. But the case with energy or electricity is that we can't actually see it. That always takes a background when it comes to our development. So for that, we try to guess that what fast is actually efficient, but that is not true. And we also try to guess that if I'm getting the desired output, that probably means that my code is running actually fine. But that is also not good engineering, just wild guessing. So for this, we have a special tool that is CodeCarbon. This is an open source library basically that works for Python natively, but the magic happens beneath the language layer. So this makes it a really cool tool that can be coupled with all kind of languages, that is Java, and also we can use it with Node.js. And we can also kind of integrate this in our daily workflow on our laptops, and as well as push it into a CI/CD pipeline that is going to check all the inefficiencies at the development stage at itself. So what this does is, it kind of tracks the resources that are being used during the execution, simply the use of the CPU, the RAM utilization, and somewhat in some cases it is applicable. It also monitors the GPU usage as well. So it is not going to actually drag everything of the source code into it, but it kind of wraps the code around it so that it only focuses on the processes. So it also, based on the metrics that it generates for itself, it is going to also estimate the energy consumption based on the kind of hardware that you are using, the kind of the CPU that you are working on, the number of cores that it has. And also the runtime utilization of RAM plays also a really important role when it comes to boiling down all the metrics for us. So it kind of determines the CO2 emissions based on a formula. It kind of provides us a ballpark figure so that we can pinpoint the specific blocks of our source code and kind of strategize our next move so that we have a better code that kind of creates lesser overload in cases of energy emissions and CO2 emissions. So I would like to talk about some of the non-negotiable pointers that I would like everyone to inculcate in their daily workflows, starting this Monday probably. Firstly, we have avoid any type of unnecessary computation. This basically means that if something is not meant to be done, please refrain from doing it. It simply means that if we have to perform a simple task like calculating a mean or average, we don't need a whole bunch of pandas library just to perform that. It is simply like we kind of are moving a grocery store bags with the help of a forklift. Then the next thing would be choosing the right data structure for a specific task, because when it comes to data structures, let us be practical and take them from just being questions from the interviews and the whiteboards into actually implementing in our daily lives. Next would be, we should always think about optimizing our code before we even plan it to launch it at a scale, because these inefficiencies that we introduce unintentionally today in our code are going to exhaust the resources when they kind of run at production at scale on the servers day and night. The next would be, we should always try to measure the before and after changes. It kind of gives us actual metrics for us that we can leverage in our daily development so that it can be used to write a more efficient and a better code. Moving on, I have one last thing to say to everyone. So let us address the elephant in the room, that is AI. So it is very obvious that every company and everyone today is using AI models to create a certain set of code daily, and there is a simple shift that we can have in our mind. We can just save some human energy from our end. We can just simply ask the AI to help us provide a better code just by changing the prompts to a more sustainable prompts. That is, we can ask the AI model to create a code that kind of focuses on lower CPU cycles and tries to minimize the CO2 emissions that might be a result of our code. And also we can use AI as not only a developer but also a sustainability auditor that kind of works around our code to figure out what the actual energy and the footprint of our code is going to be when it comes to running it on a scale. And that would be all. Thank you, guys.
I saw you mentioned about CodeCarbon. So, is there any other tool that we can integrate, or like you mentioned the point of AI that can be useful?
So you would like to know if there is any other tool that is similar to CodeCarbon. So there are plenty of options out there in the market. Similarly, for if you talk about any tool that work natively on Python, one would be PyJoule that does almost a similar job. It kind of focuses more on the energy part. It kind of gives you all the data that is related for you to optimize your code based on the metrics that are heavily inclined towards energy efficiencies. And the next, if you are working on a lower level of languages like C or something, then you have something from Intel that is Intel RAPL. I don't know if that is the correct name, RAPL. And the next is PowerTop. So these two are basically working on the lowest level of the code and would be directly interacting with each and every CPU cycle that is actually working on the process that is running in your code. So these two you can use. Okay. Thank you, guys.